Blessed Monday morning, everyone. So magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Today is May 2, 2022, and hashtag Team LRC is back for a new set of learning sessions through our webinar series entitled Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper. So kumusta po ang bawat isa sa atin ngayong umaga? Tayo po ay pumapasok sa bagong buwan, sa buwan ng Mayo, at nawa ay punong-puno ng blessings itong buwan na ito para sa ating lahat. So 7 araw na lamang po at eleksyon na dito sa ating bansa. So nawa ay suriin natin ng mabuti ang mga kandidatong nagnanais mamuno sa ating lungsod, probinsya at sa ating bansa. And also at this time, I would like to take this opportunity to greet our Muslim brothers and sisters a blessed feast of Eid al-Fitr in celebration of our deepest greetings po sa ating mga Muslim brothers and sisters. And we wish everyone an abundant flow of blessings and prosperity. So kaya naman po sa mga nakatutok sa atin sa FB Live, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Let us know kung saan po kayo nanonood ngayong araw na ito. So please comment them down below. Shout out po sa ating mga early birds, sa ating mga students, sa ating mga senior high school students from Bautista National High School. Ang pinakaunang nag-greet is si Jocelyn Villagracia. Good morning po sa iyo. Sir Noel Manuel from NTC. So, good morning. Tita Emeline Espirito from UPLB Main Library. Good morning po. From Camarines Norte State College, Miss Lagilias. Good morning po sa inyo. Let's see, sino pa po yung mga kasama natin dito? From Bautista National High School, Senior High School, good morning. Manuel A. Rojas High School, CJ Arizo, good morning po sa iyo. Wow, so dumadami na po ang ating mga participants na nag-join sa ating FB Live ngayong umaga na ito. So, let's see, sino pa yung mga kasama natin dito? Leyte Normal University, Mr. Rodolfo Capili, BS Ed, good morning. From Western Visayas, good morning po. Ayan, sige. So I hope on board na po tayong lahat. It's 9:08 in the morning. So as of this moment, we already have 5,785 registered participants. So talagang full force ulit ang ating mga guro, mag-aaral at mga mananaliksik para matuto ulit sa bagong topic na pag-uusapan natin ngayong araw na ito. So kung wala pa po dito ang inyong mga friendships, classmates and colleagues, itag na po natin sila dito sa ating FB Live at i-share nyo na rin pang ating video para sama-sama po tayong matuto sa umagang ito. I hope on board na po tayong lahat. Again, it's 9:09 naman in the morning. Welcome to Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper. So for this webinar series, our team prepared 10 sessions. San ka ba naman? 10 sessions ang ating prepare para sa webinar series na ito to fully appreciate the value of research in our life as teachers and students, as well as to learn different tips and strategies on how to further improve our research papers, especially sa ating mga students, sa ating mga scholar ng bayan na ngayon ay nilalaban ang kanilang mga thesis at dissertation. Kapit lang po tayo at sama-sama po nating ilalaban ang ating mga thesis at dissertation. I am Joshua Michael Jonas, University Research Associate of the UPLB Learning Resource Center, and yours truly will be our webinar's moderator. So we are now on our 5th session. So nakakalahati na natin ang ating webinar series. So our 5th session is entitled You GAD IT. So you got it. Mainstreaming Gender and Development in Research. So in the previous sessions, we already ventured into the different aspects, perspectives, and topics to consider for our research, yung ating social relevance and research and extension agenda here in UPLB. And last week, we learned about the different available programs and services of our university library. And last Thursday, we had a comprehensive discussion on the tips and strategies in making our literature review. So today, we will be talking about a very interesting topic, which is mainstreaming gender and development in research. So paano nga ba natin pwede i-integrate ang gender and development sa ating research? What are the possible entry points of research topics when we want to know more about gender and development. And also, what does it mean to be gender sensitive while doing research? Okay, so just a few friendly reminders for our webinar this morning. Number one, at all times, please keep your comments helpful and respectful and considerate to the speaker, moderator, and to your fellow participants. Second, if you have questions, feel free to write them down below our comment section and make sure that they are relevant for the topic this morning. And lastly, please do not forget to answer the evaluation form after the webinar. Our team will deeply appreciate your comments and suggestions. Please be reminded that the deadline of responses is only until 10 p.m. tonight. For those who will not be able to join us today because you have an equally important matters or a meeting rather to attend to, don't you worry, you can always watch the replay of our sessions on our Facebook page. We now have 93,700 strong followers. So your continuous and overwhelming support po sa aming team ang nagbibigay inspiration po sa amin para keep moving forward. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Likewise, you can also watch the recorded sessions on YouTube. So just search UPLB Learning Resource Center on YouTube. We now have around 2.79K subscribers. So please continue to like, share, and subscribe, and also click the notification bell to keep you posted with our videos. We would also like to invite you to follow and connect with us on Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So kindly use our official hashtag for this webinar series, which is hashtag Research is Life. Talagang ipupush natin yung Research is Life na yan dahil walang saysay ang ating buhay kung walang research. So para mabilis din natin makita ang lahat ng video sa ating webinar series using that hashtag. Okay, so moving forward, let's have a short energizer before we proceed with our session. So if you attended our previous webinars, alam niyo na po ang drill, hindi na kailangan sabihin yan. So sa mga ngayon palang susubok, madali lamang po ito. So open a new browser or a new window and then go to www.menti.com and kindly use the key code that you see on your screen, which is 11451461, and answer the question that you see on your screen. So again, the code is 11451461. So I request Ms. Palma to share the Menti screen. Ayan. Sige po. 100%. Okay. So for our first question, konting review muna tayo. What are your takeaways from last week's session with Doc Chino on the best strategies and tips na shinare niya in writing our review of related literature? Ano ba yung mga na-pick up natin na learnings from Sir Chino? So yung the thesis process, not to cram. Diba nga talagang we debunked last Thursday yung ating quote na ano ba yan? Di ba yung you cannot cram the RRL, di ba maraming sabi, yes, we can cram the RRL, pero hindi. Sabi ni Sir Chino, crammed RRL will result to very confused or very incomplete na thoughts sa inyong RRL. So synthesis, subtopics, let's see. Introduction, di ba ilang subtopics yung sinuggest ni Sir Chino? So let's see. Ano pa ba? RRL is important, yes. Kasi di ba nga, it is supposed to be one of the most substantial elements of our research. Hindi basta-basta lang itong compilation ng ating mga nabasa na related topics or related texts tungkol sa ating research. Introduction, synthesis, subtopics, credible sources. Yan. I think that's also important, no? Kasi hindi pwedeng kung saan-saan lang ating pinulot ang ating mga references. Dapat it must be from reputable and reliable sources. So relevance, prepared to support. Yes, your RRL must support your stance on why you should pursue this particular research topic. Diba? Synthesis of topics, a guide takes time. Yes, hindi pwedeng i-cram nga talaga. Ilang beses natin uulit-ulitin talaga yan. You cannot cram the RRL. Ayan, sige. Okay. So siguro we can move to the next question. We already had a handful of responses. No to one night cramming. I agree with you. So ito ang ating next question. What do you think are the goals of gender mainstreaming? Or we can rephrase that na, why do you think it's important to to have gender mainstreaming in research? So ako dito sa university, I have encountered plenty of research topics na very interesting research topics related to gender and development. So bakit nga ba natin kailangan i-integrate ang gender and development sa ating research? So let's see, let's wait for your responses and we can let's discuss yung mga thoughts ninyo. So why do you think or what do you think are the goals of gender mainstreaming in research? Let's see, sino ang ating unang sasagot? Sige nga, ating mga senior high from Bautista National High School. Ano ang inyong what do you think are the goals of gender mainstreaming? Abangan natin yung mga taga BNHS Senior High. To avoid prejudice, interesting, promote gender fairness. Especially now, no, in our society, we are trying to be a very gender sensitive, gender inclusive na sa ating research, sa ating mga programs and services. So ano pa ba ang mga goals sa tingin niyo ang gender mainstreaming? Promote equality, yes. Since di ba nga, if you would recall, no, dun sa discussion natin with Doc Evely, it's one of the SDGs, yung ating equality for all. Diba? Promote equality, gender equality. To show gender issues, yes. I believe one of the entry points of our topics perhaps would be the issues, concerns, or the problems being faced by the different gender, ating mga gender stereotypes, di ba? We have plenty of issues to address through research. Identify the gender gap, inclusivity, equality, gender fairness, gender sensitivity, di ba? So at least our resource speaker at the back here in the Zoom space already has an idea what are your ideas about gender mainstreaming in research, okay? So let's see, ano pa ba mga natin? Promote gender fairness, gender issues. Yeah, I think these are very good answers, no? So let's see, ano pa ba? Promote equality, inclusivity, avoid stereotyping. Yes, indeed. Identify the gender gap, awareness. I believe this topic, our topic rather for this morning, will be will be full of reflections for us to be aware on why is it important to mainstream gender and development in research, especially sa ating mga mananaliksik na dapat ay gender sensitive at gender inclusive when it comes to research. Okay. Sige. So I think we already have a handful of responses. So thank you very much. Empower all women. I think that's one of the last items na gusto kong basahin. No? Empower our women. Especially, di ba, last month, we kakatapos ng ating Women's Month. So we must take into consideration these goals ng ating gender mainstream. So thank you very much to all those who responded sa ating Mentimeter. Okay? So at least we all have a handful of ideas on what is gender mainstreaming in research all about, diba? Of course, we'll be learning about our topic in a few. So let's go now to the main part of our session. Hindi ko na papatagalin pa. So allow me to introduce to you our speaker for this morning. Okay. So Dr. Julienne Thesa Baldo-Cubelo is an associate professor at the Department of Communication Research of the College of Mass Communication, University of the Philippines, Diliman. She teaches qualitative research analysis in the undergraduate and the graduate studies programs. She has an MA degree in Women and Development Studies and a doctorate in communication. Her research interests are gender, family communication, communication as a culture, representation in advertisements, feminist standpoint, and participatory communication. Her latest journal article is titled Women Advertisement, Makers' Standpoint on the Production of Beauty Product Advertisements as Negotiated Co-optation of Feminism, published in Humanities Diliman. She has 15 years of experience in active development work as a trainer, a community radio program producer and broadcaster, and a community organizer. She helped found the community radio Huni 102.9 in Northern Samar in the early 2000s. She is currently active on health project evaluation, a research on online small town collective recall, and a research with her colleagues in the Department of Communication Research on digital public pulse of the Philippine 2022 elections. She is a mother of 3 gorgeous children. So here to share with us the best strategies in gender mainstreaming in research. Please welcome in the Zoom space, Dr. Julienne Baldo-Cubelo. Good morning, Ma'am Julienne.
Hi Josh, Sir Josh. Magandang
Morning,
umaga sa
ma'am.
ating lahat.
Thank you, ma'am. You know how the Zoom space po. Thank you.
Okay, the spotlight is on me. Scary. Okay, magandang umaga. Salamat sa pagpili na makasama ako ngayon. Makasama natin ng isa't isa ngayong Lunes ng umaga. It doesn't feel like Monday. It feels like, it feels like Friday, my gulay. I know it's not a good thing. But anyway, this is, I would do this at, any time of the day. Anything that is gender related, kahit sa dami ng ginagawa, no, maisisingit at maisisingit natin. Ito, sabi pa nga, this is the reason why I wake up in the morning and put on my eyeliner. So alam mong mahal mo ang ginagawa mo, no? Kasi kaya mong isingit kahit maraming ginagawa. So meron akong nakita, no, kanina mga taga Leyte, no? Sana meron taga Northern Samar kasi ako ay taga Northern Samar. So I will be, switching from one screen to another because I'd like to see the reactions and comments in the Facebook live streaming, although I'm not using my account because I don't have a Facebook account at this point. Nakikigamit na ako sa account ng anak ko. Alright, so I will be checking the Facebook comment every now and then. Right, so let me now share my screen with you. And I am happy that the pangangampanya ng mga kandidato has just quieted down a few minutes ago kasi parang tuloy-tuloy ang pangangampanya, okay? And my microphone is so sensitive that it catches all kinds of noises. I love the title of this. Of course, this is not mine. This is the UPLB Learning Resource Center's title. You got it. Mainstreaming Gender and Development in Research. Thank you very much for this very inspired title. I hope I can live up to it. I hope I can rise up to the occasion. So this is just actually an invitation to these ideas. I should have drunk water first. Anyway, so an invitation means that I myself am just learning about these things through trial and error. Nothing is final with what I know at this point. And I always say that I need to teach what I myself need to learn. Okay, so I have divided my sharing or my talk into 2 sections. One is advocating for God in research. Let me mute first. There is such a loud banging somewhere. Just give me a minute. I will close my window. Okay, I think my neighbor has decided to repair some things this morning. Give me a minute.
Sige po, ma'am.
Ewan ko kung naririnig nyo yung ano ang tawag nito? Matinding pagpupokpok. Okay?
Sige na pa, ma'am. Okay. So while waiting for Ma'am Julienne, no? So these are very interesting topics that she will be discussing with us this morning. So I'll read first some of the greetings natin. So I hope may taga-summer nga, no? So mayroon tayo from Northeastern Mindanao State Campus, Mindanao State University main campus in Tandag City. Good morning. From Davao del Sur State College. So good morning. Okay, I think we have Ma'am Julienne with us back. Okay, ma'am?
Sana ma-minimize yung ingay, no, now that I have closed the window. I have it's hot already, but I have my paypayan here. Okay,
Sure,
so 2 sections, advocating for God in research research, and the second section will be about, the big things, what I consider as the big things that we can do through the small things, the little things, the everyday things that we can do through research, through our education, through our mentorship, um, and research being the medium through which we can change the world. Big time words, I know. And as I have also mentioned earlier, I hope I will not sound like I'm pontificating, like I'm preaching. Well, crossing my fingers, I tend to sound like I know it all sometimes, especially on a Monday, But please forgive me this early if I may sound too ideal, or too optimistic. But I am that. I am a lunatic optimist. But please, again, I am processing these things with you. When I would have time to review the recording of this session, I know that what will sound to me is, I am renewing vows. I am renewing vows with this thing called gender advocacy. It is never final for me. In fact, I become my greatest critic when it comes to my expectation of where I should be at this point as a gender advocate, as a person, as a parent, as an educator. So I am really very hard on myself. So I feel that I am not yet there. Malayo pa ako. So talks like this, sharings like this, I really welcome, because these serve as a renewal of vows. Okay, renewal, like a love affair, like a love story. And I will not impose anything. I will not, and not I will just I am not trying to convert anyone into something. If I have learned one thing during this election season, it's the importance of conversations, not conversion. So everything is an invitation, and it's okay if you say no to this. It's okay. I am hard on myself, but I am very patient with other people. I often tell my students that my classes are just invitations to the sophistication of the mind, and what else? I There's another term: sophistication of the mind, and a deepening of the ecology of the heart. Nothing is final. It's a lifelong learning, and as long as we are learning, nothing is final. We may revise, we may learn and learn, relearn, but we might also have revisions to our revised interpretation. So I hope, at the least, I hope I can excite you, I can enchant you, or I can invite you to a space of reimagining things. Okay? My gosh, I am putting myself in very, very high standards this morning. Sige, let's do this. So once again, I am Julienne. I am from the Department of Communication Research of the College of Mass Communication in UP Diliman. I live in Quezon City. I live at the outskirts of the campus. I always say this so that you have a clear context of where I am, because I may feel so near yet so far. I live in a very small house with lots of plants and mosquitoes and lizards and some rats. What else? I am Waray. I am from Katarman, Northern Samar. I still consider myself as a tourist, like a temporal resident in Quezon City. I still call Katarman my home. I plan to have an early retirement so that I could go home there as soon as possible. What else? English is not my first language, not even Filipino. In our home, I speak Waray. So I am very scattered brain when it comes to the English language. So of course I promise a lot early, but believe me, I will lose myself along the way. I will digress. I will tell stories that have nothing to do with the slides that I am looking at, with the slides that you're looking at. So that's why I tell you I'm going to excite you, because I will confuse you most of the time. If we bump into one another, face to face, and you recognize me with long dangling earrings that reach the floor, you can call my name and I will respond to you. Just call me Julienne. All right. So advocating for God in research, I call myself an advocate. I call myself an ally of the LGBTQCI community. I joined the Pride March. I call myself first as a, how do I label myself? I call myself as an activist, a development worker, and then a professor, and then a researcher last. Okay, so the bigger identity that I carry that encompasses many identities would be like, you know, an activist, but an activist that may not be, you know, the mainstream definition of activist. Ibig sabihin, I arg, I arg all my way through life. You know, parang palagi may pinaglalaban. Okay? But I am a joyful, happy, lunatic, optimist activist. If there ever is one, that would be me. Okay, so let me start my advocating with a discussion on standpoints on agency and structure, because I guess as a gender and development advocate, this is where I really start from. This is my get-go. How do we understand accountability? How do we understand responsibility? Pag meron tayo nakikitang informal settlers demolition, for instance, you know, yung dati nang hindi pa tayo mga politically correct, ang tawag natin sa kanila mga squatter. Kung merong demolisyon na nakikita tayo sa mga squatter at nata-traffic tayo at naki-inconvenience tayo, anong sinasabi natin sa sarili natin? Or kung nanonood lang tayo ng balita at merong mga squatter na dinidemolish ang bahay, ano ang sinasabi natin sa sarili natin? Ano ang mga bagay na naglalaro sa ating isipan? This is my example, because this really uh, examines our stances when it comes to accountability or responsibility, taking care of one another. What do I mean by that? Sino ba, if a person has not finished primary education, for instance, sino ang may kasalanan nun, no? Sino may kasalanan nun? Yung tao ba yun? Yung tao ba yun na hindi nakatapos? Ang magulang ba niya? Ang kanyang komunidad? Bakit may mga informal sectors, no? Naririnig ba natin ang ating sarili na nagsasabi na, ay, kasi dapat umuwi na silang probinsya, hindi naman nila yan mga lupa, mga sindikato naman yan. What else? Kung meron tayong kakilala who is kind of a loser, di ba? Ay, loser si Te, di ba? Sino ang may responsibilidad? No? So at this point, there is no wrong or right answer, but this is a good way to check where we are, and it is a process. You know, I used to have many beliefs about these things that are already contradictory to what I currently believe in. So in research, we always come with a baggage. We always come with a position, with a standpoint in with regard to these things. So ibig sabihin, you know, as a social scientist, I don't believe in neutral or, you know, a valueless science making or a valueless research. There is value in our value-latedness, especially with our beliefs to structure and agency. Okay, so where we put the line between the individual and collective accountability depends on our narrations on I, we, and the other. Sino nga ba ako? Sino nga ba tayo? At sino nga ba sila? Okay? So how big is our we? I would begin to focus on our we. Pag sinabi ko bang we, ito ba ay ang mga kaparehas ko mag-isip? Ito ba ay mga profesional, mga edukado, edukada? Pag sinabi ko bang we, kasama ko ba ang aking mga kapitbahay or mga ka-wavelength ko lang ito? Kasama ko ba yung aking kaibigang tambay? Pag sinabi ko bang we, you know, ang mga waray lang ba ito at ina-other ko ang mga Bicolano, ang mga Ilocano? Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? No? So, and where is this rooted from? You know, it is rooted from our experience, you know, that is always related to gender, of course, and to class, of course, and to ethnicity, of course. Okay? So, standpoints on experience is the place where we experience the world. It is the place where we understand the world. Okay? Because it is where our embodied reality is located. Okay? Sana hindi pa tayo nagno-nosebleed. I am not underestimating my audience. But anyway, I will further make it hip and I will make it, more relatable. So, my standpoint on this is feminist. Okay? I don't have the luxury now to expand my position on feminism. Okay? But if you have original notions of feminism, and you see me and you hear me this morning, no, sana mag-expand tayo. No? So kung medyo natatakot kayo sa salitang feminism, feminist before, sana ngayon medyo mabawasan naman yun. Just by listening to me and interacting with me. So my notion of standpoint is feminist. Okay, so when I say feminist standpoint, I believe that when we would like to get the objective account of reality, all right, the objective account of reality, I would go for the standpoint of the marginalized or the subjugated, not the superior. Classic example is this. If we want to learn about slavery, I hope you're still with me, okay? If we want to learn about slavery and we are keen on the objective account of it, sino ang ating kakausapin? Sino ang ating tatanungin? The objective account of reality rests on the slave, not the masters. Okay, if it makes sense to you. Because there are two standpoints, not just actually two, there are the polar opposites and the gray areas in between, but gusto kong pag-aralan sa slavery, I would go for the standpoint of the subjugated. Okay, in this case, the slaves. If I would want to understand the plight of kasambahays, for instance, I would indulge more the kasambahays rather than the amos, rather than the employers, okay? Because they may have a different account of the reality, okay, of the employer-employee reality. What else? So, when I would like to account for this standpoint of the marginalized, the subjugated, okay, yung nasa laylayan, nasa periphery ng lipunan, okay, I am also interested in their emic perspective. So pag sinabi natin sa research na emic perspective, yan ang insider's perspective. Because we all have our assumptions, right? When we are an outsider, we have a lot of assumptions. We have a lot of stereotyping. We have a lot of judgment. We have a lot of pangungutya. Alam ko na yan. Mga tamad lang kasi yan eh. Kaya yun na ganyan. Kasi, ang hirap kasi sa mga ganyan eh. Alam, diba? Meron tayong mga ganyan. Outsider perspective. But, in research, we are encouraged to go inside, and to learn the insider's perspective. Of course, with the humility, with the open-mindedness, that we are still coming from a different position. Na privileged pa rin tayo, educated tayo. So talaga, baka we can understand some, but we cannot understand completely. So, when I say in the sharing standpoint, that is my 2 cents on it. Okay pa ba tayo? Sana, I don't mind if you're taking notes here. If you have your notebook so that you can go back to your notebooks after this. So standpoint on experience was emic perspective, is it? And why is it important in research to know the emic perspective? Because we are always wrong about our assumptions, or it's always incomplete. Okay, so we do our review of related literature. Dr. Chino Sayuno has already shared how to do that. And we go to the field, we enter the field, we do our research with already an informed notions of what we want to study. But it is never complete. We still need to go out there. We still need to take that first step. Okay, so I always am surprised how first impressions never last. I used to believe that first impressions last, but they don't. No? So, ibig sabihin, if you are just from the outside, okay, parang feeling mo, yun na yun, alam ko na yun, nakita ko na yun, narinig ko na, been there, done that. Yun, experience once, you've seen it all. Meron tayong ganon. Okay? I guess, First impressions, they do last if that's the only encounter you would have with a person. You say, look at the person in an airport, ay mukha siyang malandi. Ay mukha siyang, diba? Meron tayong mga ganyan. Mukhang wala siyang alam. Okay, that impression might be frozen in time because you will not meet that person anymore, you will not be able to encounter that person anymore, and it will be frozen in time. However, if you have a continuing encounter with a person, like with your student or with your professor or with your friend, a new coworker, and a new kabarkada, okay, do you notice that the first impressions you have on these people often change or evolve or transform? They expand. They expand. Okay, so that is what happens when we get a little closer and we give ourselves the permission to be inside, to get on the insider's perspective. Okay, now my discussion about standpoint, okay, when it comes to research is also connected with privilege. Knowing thy privilege is not rocket ship science. It is not. It is not a mystery. Okay? The fact that we have time to be here, to be together, to listen to this webinar, to take down notes, to think about research. What is the next topic? Thinking about finishing our thesis, our dissertations. Thinking of the college degree that we would like to take on. If we are, if we have these luxuries, these are already, telling that we are privileged. And why is this important? In gender and development, we'll get there. Okay, so the act of looking is privileged. Okay, it is already I don't know. It is quite sacred to me. The mere fact that you're thinking about things. I often say that my ideal world is one where people sit down and theorize. Di ba, bongga yun, Anong gagawin mo ngayon, Julienne? Wala lang, upo lang ako sa ilalim ng punong kahit tas mag-emi ako about life. Di ba, nag-theorize ka. Feeling ko the meaning of life is the cosmocosmic interconnection of the inbound and the outbound vibrations of the self-connected. May mga ganyan tayo, di ba? That is my ideal scenario, not just for myself, but for everyone. If once in a while people can have that, to sit down and theorize, that is my good society. That is my ideal society. Now, because the act of looking is privileged, therefore the disclosure of lenses is imperative. So when we do research, okay, there is a need to disclose kung saan tayo tumitingin, no? Kung tayo ay nagre-research from this position at tinitingnan natin ang mga bagay-bagay sa harap natin, there is a need to disclose na nandito tayo sa position kung saan medyo nakaangat tayo, diba? Nakaangat tayo, nakatungtong tayo sa balkonahe, tinitingnan ko yan from a detached position kasi hindi naman talaga ako taga dyan. Okay? So, when it comes to my research, I often, not all the time, okay? Not all the time, but often I would disclose that I am looking at things, especially if my research is really gender heavy, no? I would say that I'm looking at it through the lenses of, socialist feminist. Yun ang tingin ko, no? Hindi lang feminista, kundi socialist feminist. Okay? Meron akong prescriptions, meron akong idealizations o paano nga ba dapat ang mundo natin. No? So yun ang aking framework, kung bagay yun ang aking eyeglasses. Ang kulay ng aking eyeglasses ay rainbow. So most likely iba yung basa ko ng mga bagay-bagay. So kung ikaw ay nanggagaling, if you are studying, let's say, women, and then you are a male cisgender person, okay, i-disclose mo lang yun. There is an interest in the plight of women, but please know that, my embodied reality is a standpoint of a male cisgender person. Okay? Na medyo middle class siguro, educated, and so on and so forth. Kung pinag-aaralan ko ang mga buhay ng mga agriculturists, for instance, from what position am I looking the lives of agriculturists? So, maraming paraan ito, no? Pero yun, importante yun kasi looking is such a privileged act. Okay, are you with me still? Okay, so sige, question muna tayo and pwede natin itong sagutin sa ating isipan. Pwede rin tayong mag-type doon sa ating comment section sa Facebook. Okay, pwede rin ibulong sa hangin. Pwede rin, kausapin ng pader. Man tayo. So, kailangan bang enlightened na tayo with regard to gender or kailangan evolve na tayo dapat at this point? So, I know that if you are being educated at this point, you will come across, gender advocacy, a gender, related how to. Dapat ganito na tayo. Dapat gender fair na tayo. No? Kung tayo ay mga guro, siguro meron na tayong napuntahan ng mga gender sensitivity training. Meron na tayong meeting. Siguro meron na mga technical working group. Sana meron na, no? Meron na mga gender committee sa ating paaralan, sa ating komunidad. Okay? Meron na tayong narinig na mga, dapat ganito para makuha na, dapat may 5% tayo sa ating gender and development component. Kasi naku, lagot tayo, wala tayong bonus kung wala tayong ganon. So, meron ba tayong, siguro we can answer this question in two ways. It's either, do we have an expectation in a lighter or positive note that we need to be enlightened at this point? Or maybe do we have a resistance to this? Do we feel like this is really imposed on us? That how come we need to do this? Bakit kailangan ganun? Huh? Nasaan na ba tayo at kailangan ba talaga, no? Kailangan, again, no? Is there a sense of acceptance or is there a sense of resistance to this? Okay, so let me check kung meron kayong mga masasabi sa comment section. Okay? Or you might reserve your answers to this, okay? To put it down in your notes, and then I will go back to those answers later. Okay, so I will share my answer to this. No, I guess I have already pictured an idea earlier that it is a continuity. In fact, for myself, it is a back and forth journey. Sometimes I am very good in articulating, that there needs to be a gender fair language, for instance, that we need to expand our consciousness and our concepts, okay? But I also catch myself being a hypocrite when it comes to my loved ones, for instance, when it comes to how I react to what my children do, for instance. Okay, so I still catch myself, contradicting the things that I say. I have 3 children. Okay, so 2 are boys and 1 is a girl, and I try my best to be as gender fair as possible. But sometimes sabi ko, may latak pa rin talaga, no, ang kultura ng aking kinalakihan. Meron pa rin ako mga expectation when it comes to raising them well, at meron pa rin, no. But I know I am way above the average when it comes to being gender fair, when it comes to my parenting. But I am just telling you that it is, I am not yet there. I'm getting there. Okay? Pero meron akong falling short of kung saan na dapat ako ngayon, because I am a gender advocate. So when it comes to you, I know that you might have reluctance, or you might be insecure sometimes when you think that I might be violating some sensibilities here because I still don't know a lot. What else? You might be resisting, the prescription of your professor. You might even be feel oppressed because there is such an imposition from the outside world to be politically correct, to be gender sensitive, to be gender fair. Okay, wherever you are at this point, it's okay. No, this is a safe space, and then again, just process this with me. Okay, why? No, as a gender advocate, I underscore the importance of staying in conversations. Okay, staying on conversations, especially with regard to paradoxes. So, knowing means confronting paradoxes. Pag sinabi nating paradox, yung mga ambivalent, yung mga gray, yung parang tama na parang mali, yung parang ganun na hindi naman. Okay? So, paradox. So, this is very important for me so that conversations continue, no? Not prohibited. Okay? Tuloy-tuloy lang. No? I always use the metaphor, when I speak gender equality, I hope that people stay in the room, they remain in the conversations, not stand up and walk out and leave. Okay? That's not my goal. The goal is for people to stay in the room. Okay. Now, as we, embark on research, tapos sinasabi, uy, dapat gender, yan, gender fair yan. Dapat gender sensitivity yan, no? I think what is important is to, again, be very realistic, be very candid about it. I love the word candid. To be candid with the tensions, the tensions that we still have. Okay? For instance, what conversations in gender make us bang our heads on the wall? Yung meron tayong expectation na ano ba, bakit yan pa rin pinag-uusapan natin? Dapat alam na natin yan. Bakit tito, tita, bakit ganun pa rin kayo mag-isip? No? Meron mga ganyan, no? Bakit kailangan ko pang magpaliwanag? Bakit parang kasalanan ko? Di ba? Meron tayo. What are these things? Okay? What are these things? Take note of these things because this might be your entry point to Narnia. This might be the door to Narnia, no? That will open up, research puzzles that will excite us. Baka ito, pwede natin to i-connect, sa ating gustong pag-aralan. Okay? Baka pwede natin tong gawing, inspiration or vessel through which our scholarship can move forward. Bakit parang hindi ako na-excite sa pinag-aaralan ko? Tingnan nga natin, what are the conversations on gender that make us bang our heads on the wall? The arg that we hear ourselves saying. Okay? Okay? But do we always need to make it an issue of gender when it comes to research? Kailangan ba talaga may gender dyan? Hindi naman. Hindi naman palagi. However, I guess there is an expectation now that because we are being educated and we are educating others as well. Okay? Mas malaki ang expectation sa atin that we are not gender blind. Okay? That we are not gender insensitive. Parang ano yan, parang there is a level of ridiculousness already if we don't know anything about it. Okay? It used to be that interracial marriages were taboos. Isa siyang katatawanan. Isa siyang ano ba yan? Bakit nag-asawa sila mag-iba ang kulay nila? It used to be that, people from, Warais, for instance, Warais, frown upon people marrying non-Warais. It used to be like that. Okay? So, pero ngayon, pag ganun pa ang tingin mo sa buhay, ridiculous ka na. So, it's the same thing with gender awareness. Kung medyo nasa kadiliman pa tayo, okay lang naman. You have all the right to be in the kadiliman. Okay? Pero, ridiculous na siya. No? Lalo na kung ikaw isang estudyante or ikaw ay isang guro. Okay? Parang nasaan ka this past few years, no? Okay? Nasaan ka? Nasa kuweba. Nasa kuweba ka nga. Nagtitiktok ka naman palagi. So, parang mahirap nang tanggapin ang katotohanan na hindi mo alam ang mga bagay na to. So, when it comes to research, well, okay, you can do research that does not have any gender sensibility. It's fine. Okay? It does not even have to be about gender-related topics. But the process, okay, at least have to be gender sensitive. Now, okay, what else? Advocating inclusivity with awareness of our intellectual flinching and spectacleizing. Okay? Anong ibig kong sabihin ng intellectual flinching? Okay, I guess I am talking to mentors and teachers and professors here. Okay? intellectual flinching is the act of cringing, no? Nagki-cringe tayo because we're not yet there, or we cannot fully relate with other people's sensibility. So, meron tayong sense of superiority. No, bakit ganun sila mag-isip? Ay, bakit ang babaw? Di ba? Nag-intellectual flinching tayo pag ganun. Bakit ang babaw nila? Bakit ganun sila? Bakit yun ang iboboto nila? Di ba? Meron tayong mga ganong statement sa buhay. And spectacleizing is maybe the other way around, yung masyado tayong na-cute-cute. Ay, ang cute naman nila. Parang sa pag-aralan ng mga broken families. Di ba? Parang circus. Ay, ang cute naman nila. Ang dami nilang tragedy. They are so poor. I wanna study them because I really don't know anything about poverty and I'm very interested in that. Nag-expect ka. May gano'n talaga accent, no? So, nag-expectacleize tayo, no? And, victims, survivors of sexual abuses, they cry foul because they say they have been spectacleized by research, So many things have been studied about them, pero hindi naman bumabalik. This is very common in universities located just beside informal settlers, no? UPLB, for instance, or University of Eastern Philippines, where I come from. Katabi lang namin ang mga informal sectors at sila palagi yung pinag-aaralan, no? In-spectacleize ang kanilang kalagayan. Pero sabi nga ng isang informant, alam mo, lagi ako ini-interview ng estudyante 1970s pa lang. Lagi ako pinag-aaralan. Pero bakit parang walang bumabalik? Hindi pa rin sa akin sinishare kung ano ang napag-aralan nila about me or my community. So, kasi marahil, na-spectacleize lang sila. So, when we also consider gender in our research, dapat, our notions of inclusivity should be a continuity, not just, spectacleizing, and also not about intellectual flinching. So let's see, how do we respond to this? Let's check again what is our intellectual flinching into a discussion about a continuity in gendered language, for instance, because when I shared this with my co-parents in my children's school, some parents really flinched, with this one. And then some people reacted through laughter. Some people reacted through, parang, ay, bakit ganyan? Bakit kayo nagkagulo ng buhay? Di ba? May mga ganyan. So, let's just check. So, let's say you are a teacher of biology. Let's just say you are a teacher of biology and you're trying to tell your students about gender-inclusive language in biology. Okay? And you say, now that we'll listen to Julienne Baldo-Cubelo. Let us be more gender fluid with our language. And then let's see how you react to that. Okay, because we react differently. Our process is different with other people. Some people would say, I like it. Parang, yeah, I like this because I feel represented. I feel like finally I am not being excluded in that kind of language. But some people would say, ay, grabe naman. Ay, kailangan ba yan? Ay, wag nang ganun. Ako, accepting naman talaga ako, di ba? Pero, bakit kailangan pang ganyan? Di ba? Parang effort na naman yan. Okay, let's just see how we react to this. So, instead of using men or male or women and female, okay, this is teaching about biology, we can focus on the organ or functional activity or role. So, we may delete the word women, in describing the ovary. So instead of saying women produce eggs, we can say ovaries produce eggs. Okay, instead of saying males are more likely to be colorblind, we can say XY individuals are more likely to be colorblind. Instead of saying the mother carries the fetus for 9 months, we can say the gestational parent carries the fetus for 9 months. What do we feel about this? What can we say about this? Okay, do we feel like okay, just about right, or ay kailangan pa ba yun? okay, anong kinalaman nito sa world peace? Di ba? Pwede tayo may ganun. Kailangan pa ba? Okay na tayo, di ba? Okay, so again, let's just check our intellectual flinching or moralizing. Okay? Meron pa siguro, pwede pa nating marinig ang ating sarili. But what about us? No? Pwedeng ganon. Siguro kung ikaw ay, male and, pag the moment you say, in this office, kailangan meron na tayong women's desk. You might hear yourself, paano naman ang men's desk? No? May mga ganon tayong reaksyon. Pag sinabi ngayon ng city ordinance natin, right? For instance, in Quezon City, we have a city ordinance that all private and public, spaces, okay, kailangan ng merong sex-neutral restroom. Pwede sabihin, ay, kailangan pa, paano yun? Paano kung masilipan ako? Diba? Meron tayong ganun mga. For me, it's very important to just put it out there. No? To just put it out there. Check, kung saan tayo nag-flinch. Okay? So, bakit? Sa akin, okay ako dito. Right? But if you're not yet there, it's okay. Just stay with me. Why is this okay with me? Because all people, cis and trans, mamaya explain natin kung ano yung cis and trans, experience different bodies, reproduction, and families. Many organisms thrive in stable families where a male-female relationship is only one of many options. Okay? And so on and so forth. So, okay, so just an opening to how it can be done, just an opening to how to change the way we've been doing things. An alternative that most likely, again, I am very optimistic, an alternative that will most likely be a norm, hopefully, at sana hindi lang siya sa lingwahe. Okay? Sana hindi lang siya sa lingwahe. But why do we need to start with language? Okay, I am now transitioning to the second part of my sharing. Okay, meron pa palang example, no? Another example that is visual. So we often do this, no? May mga ganito tayo mga visualization that is highly binary. Pwede rin natin gawin ito, no? Less binary, no? Still factual. So we're talking about, ovaries, we're talking about testes, the scrotum, okay? Same process, no? We are not creating fake news. We are not doing misinformation or disinformation. But if you have not felt excluded with this, you're lucky. Congratulations. Bravo to you. Personally, I have not felt excluded with these kinds of visualization. I have not, okay? Because I am such a privileged cisgender person, okay? But for those who have felt, ay, nasaan ako dyan? Nasaan kaya ako dyan? Parang hindi naman ako kasali sa usapan, okay? Then this might be very, very freeing for them. Because, okay? Ganun naman siya ka-complicated. Actually, hindi siya complicated. Complex lang siya, pero hindi siya complicated, no? I guess this is not the webinar to really expand on this, but if we would like to know more about SOGIESC, about, what do I need to know? People are talking about LGBTQCI++++. Ano na ba? Ang gulo na, nagugulan ako. Ang dami ng terms, di ba? Dati simple lang naman, no? Kung you are interested but you are kinda shy or timid to ask, no? What I share with my students is the genderbread person. So you can go to itspronouncemetrosexual.com. Okay, you can just type the genderbread person and you will be led to the website. It's pronounced metrosexual, and this is a very nice way to explain to the newcomers, to the beginners. If you are advanced in this world, then this might not be it for you. But to your students, to your friends, even to your teachers, if you are a student and you feel like your teacher is needs more enlightening, or maybe your teacher is ready right now, then maybe you can share this to your cousins, to your parents, to your loved ones, to your jowa, to your, okay? You can start here because this might this might it might overwhelm those who are not yet there. Okay, so you can begin with the genderbread person. Ano nga bang identity? Nandito siya. Okay, please know that the literature on this has become way more advanced than this one, but this is just, I guess, a good balance between the simple and the complex. Okay, a good balance of the simple and the complex. So identity, gender identity, it's the womanness or the manness that the person, claims. Okay, and then the sexual orientation, or this one, dalawa ang component ng attraction. Okay, this used to be, in simple terms, pag meron kayong naririnig na sexual orientation, okay, eto yun, si puso ang tinitubok. Okay, sino ang gusto mong landiin at sino ang yung gustong ibigin, mahalin. Okay, but this is composed of two components. You are the sexual attraction and the romantic attraction. Di ba? Magkaiba daw sila, no? Magkaiba. Oo nga, no? Pwede yun. Magkaiba siya. And then the biological sex, the femaleness. Okay? So, hindi lang yan dalawa, no? We have the intersex people, na dati tinatawag natin mga hermaphrodites. The term now is intersex. Okay? Tapos, this is where the rock and roll is. The expression. Ano? The expression, which has nothing to do with the gender identity and the biological sex and your sexual orientation. Nothing to do with it. This is where we can play around it. Your identity might be man or, a woman, a little bit of both. Pwedeng ganon. Your attraction might be towards, feminine expressing people. Your biological sex might be, more on the female side, but your expression is something else. Okay? So, kaya masarap pag-usapan, but I know this is not the talk for it. Masarap pag-usapan, people who are breaking boundaries, people who are openly processing their sexuality in the public. Bakit dati sabi niya lesbian siya, tapos ngayon trans man na siya, no? I'm talking about Isa Sigera, for instance. Okay, because Isa Sigera himself has gone through a process, and it's okay to start with people like Isa Sigera because they are living examples of how they continue to process sexuality. Okay, so maybe we will allot specific time for this if there is an opportunity in the future. But then again, it pays to know. It pays to know, especially if you are a teacher. It pays to know to be conversant with the vocabulary. Okay, you need not embrace everything. If it goes against with your morality, it's okay to feel that. It's a process. Hindi pwedeng amen ka kaagad dito, but it pays to know that there is an existing language and there are existing realities. It might not be a reality, but there are existing realities out there, that connected to real people, and it pays to know that there are words for these. There are labels for this. Some people don't like labels, but other people really like labels. So for those who like labels, it pays to know the labels that they prefer. Okay, so big things in small things. So I have already started with the language we can use in research. Okay, so I call it compassionate and effortful language. Bakit effort? Importante ang effort, di ba? Feeling ko lahat ng bagay sa mundo dapat may effort tayo. Hindi pwedeng, okay na yan. Effort, no? There is love in effort. There is love in effort. So in research, okay, I believe that it is a medium for new vocabulary. So I am not the golden girl for this one. If you look at my publications, I have not yet fully embraced the language because I did not know any better back then. I tried my best to be inclusive in my language, but at this point, my best then is no longer the best at this point. And I am okay with that. I can forgive myself with that. But what do I mean by this? I grew up thinking that, it's the he general noun. He to refer to everyone. I grew up thinking that it's how it's supposed to be. And then getting to UP, I was educated in gender inclusive language instead of saying, businessman, I would say, business person. I would say cameraman, camera person. Okay, and I did not resist it. It was okay with me. It was easy. It was difficult to some people. It was easy for me. Okay, now and then, instead of saying he in general, I efforted to say he, she, he or she. No, he or h is slash she. Okay, pero nasaan na ba tayo ngayon? No? So, in UP, we're big in pronouns. No? So, for those of you who are not in UP, you can check the gender and development office for the resources. It's all there. You can even, there's even a template for the memo if you want to cascade this down to your colleagues and in your organizations. We are big in pronouns. It's just the start of things. I know this will not bring world peace. It's the start of things, but we are expanding and expanding. But please know that in research, yung paggamit pa lang ng I and we used to be revolutionary. Okay, I know marami sa atin na pag-research, ang gamit pa rin ay third person, the researchers. Tama ba? May mga teacher dito na nagtuturo ng research, no? So, meron pa rin sa atin na when we say research, because research is supposed to be neutral, we still use the terms the researcher, the researchers. The researchers of this study use quantitative methodology, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so medyo, okay na pala mag-I and we. But even this, there's a battle out there, but the battle is no longer as noisy as before. But people, meron pa rin resistance. Okay, it is a different thing in the social sciences, in the humanities. So we are more allowing of this. But right now, it is a common practice. I can't recall a research project that I have done where I have not used the term I or we. Meron akong aversion with the researcher. Meron akong aversion na ganyan. Pero, sino yan? Asan si researcher? Di ba ako yon? Di ba tayo yon? Meron akong ganyan. Okay? But for others, they're still like, that's new, that's revolutionary. It's okay. We all have our different timelines. Now, china-challenge na naman tayo, no? China-challenge na naman tayo with when it comes to gender fair language. For me, that is okay. It is a continuation. It is an act of naming. To name is to value, right? To name is to value. To name is to underscore that it exists. Okay, that the reality exists, that the phenomenon exists, that the beingness exists. Okay, so ngayon meron na, there are language that excludes. We don't know that they exclude because you have not felt you have been excluded. But for others who have felt it, that reality is valid. So, meron na ito nga, di ba? Nandito ako ngayon para I really tried my best to be very gender neutral. So, my research papers would have one who clarifies, one who instead of he, no? One who gets it, meron akong ganan, okay? And then he, she. Almost all of my sentences where I need to have pronouns, talagang ganyan yan. He, she. When my mother's generation would have resisted this. Pero, grabe naman, bakit naman ganyan? Walang ganyan sa Okay, sa Merriam-Webster Dictionary, walang ganyan. He na yan. Intindi na natin yan. Kasama na tayo dyan. Okay? But then my generation belabored the use of he, she. Every sentence. Dagdag ink sa printer, dagdag laway pag nagsasalita tayo. May dagdag na effort. Okay? Kaya, may dagdag na love. Now, ngayon, we are being challenged na naman na he, she is not enough, but to they. Ito ngayon talaga, maraming resistance dito. They? Di ba? Paano pag sinabing, my daughter has gone, they have gone. Sino kasama ng anak ko? Di ba? May mga ganun tayo. Dinadala natin sa biro. When we process things that are not yet very, very familiar with us. Okay, I will show examples of this later, don't worry. And then there are now the neopronouns, the z, the her, the hers, the zer, the she, the per, they, a, and hen. The gender neutral titles. My students are now calling me Mix. When they send me emails, they will say Mix Julienne Baldo-Cubelo. Diba? Do you notice that young people are the ones who are very, very accepting about these things, and the teachers and the professors are kind of late actually. So example, no? So ito, I know my English teacher in high school will really resist this. No, we have been taught that this is grammatically wrong because each is singular. Siguro ngayon yung mga English teachers in the class are, I don't know how you are feeling. I hope I am not offending anyone. Each student submitted their art portfolio to the committee because there is now gender inclusive. No? Gender inclusive, hindi natin ina-assume na he, she lang yan. Because again, it is, there are gradations in between. So, hindi na to. Okay? Each student submitted his or her. When in fact, my last paper was still on this one. His or her, his or her. And I thought I was very inclusive. No? There is an attempt to be inclusive, but again, we can do better. Okay? Each student submitted his, her, not anymore. Allowed na ito. Okay? There. Every individual is unique. They are a combination of strengths and weaknesses. Again, maybe Grammarly will still correct you on this one. Maybe apps on correcting your grammar will still correct you on this one because every is considered singular and they is plural. But hindi na ganon, no? Every individual is unique, hindi na siya. Of course, you will not say they is. Every individual is unique, she or he. This is better than it was before, but we can do better than this one. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me? Okay. I hope you already have questions in mind that you are ready to send in later. So it's really about rewarding. Sometimes there are, as much as I can, but I am not perfect with it one, I will just try to avoid the use of pronouns. Okay? Or, do I really need to distinguish it between he or she? Okay, pwede natin siyang i-reword, no? So, we can say people should enjoy their vacations, if it meant to the general population, and we can rearrange things and still make it very gender neutral or gender inclusive. A person should enjoy vacation. See, there is a way to reword arrange our sentence. A vacation should be enjoyable. Okay, so which is again requires effort, especially when we already have our Kembot when writing sentences. We already have our momentum, our rhythm, our style. This is how I think, therefore this is how I write. Now, if we need to learn new things, ano naman yun? Bakit ganun yan naman? Alam ko naman yan, he, she lang yan dati eh. He, she, it, I, we, you, they. Bakit ganyan? Nagumugulo na naman ang buhay. Ginugulo na naman ako. Okay? So, when we feel like we are being inconvenienced, okay, I think sa akin is, let's check our privileges. No? Yun lang naman yun eh. Because the privileged ones are really the ones who complain first. Okay? Kailangan may gender neutral comfort room. Because you are now, being inconvenienced into sharing a space with others. You are now, because for a long time you have not thought about it. Going to the restroom has never been your problem because you are privileged. But for many people, going to the restroom was a matter of life and death. Will I be embarrassed? Ang ganda ng tulog ko, pero I know that choosing a restroom at this point will be a matter of life and death for me. Okay? So if you have not problematized it, if you have not felt bad about it, and now that there is an expectation that you give more effort and you are complaining about it, most likely you are privileged. Congratulations that you are privileged. Okay. Parang siya lang yan, no? In the Filipino word, siya. Madali lang yan because the language is very gender neutral. It's very gender inclusive. And hindi naman tayo nagreklamo na gender inclusive at gender neutral siya. Siya, ikaw, sila. 'Di ba? So in the English language, hindi siya ganon. So if English, is our language for research and academic intellectual thinking, there is a need of adjustment that is expected from us now. Okay? Pero, ibig sabihin, madali lang naman siya kung dadating tayo sa point that it will become automatic on everyone. Okay, so who is supporting this? Okay, the American Psychological Association, the APA is big on this one. So we have support in this. If you are beginning the gender neutral language in your research, you can say check out the API. You know, in 2019 they started recommending this. Even the Merriam-Webster dictionary has already recommending and putting a space for the neo pronouns. Okay, and then of course UP. And in fact, may memo ang UP na we are very, very sensitive. Little things. So little things. Pronoun lang yan. It will not bring us world peace. It will not solve poverty. It will not stop, the killings out there against transgenders. But it will create ripples in the water. It will affect, maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe in our children's lifetime. Okay, less and less people will feel excluded. Okay, so the little things actually translate to big things. So for instance, okay, sabi ng in the field of biology, when women used to be studied as subjects, okay, they are relegated to the so-called bikini science. Na pag women, reproductive organ, reproductive hormones, reproductive bikini science. So we cannot underestimate ano ba kinalaman ng pronouns na yan sa overall scheme of things. Meron siyang kinalaman because the big things start with little things. The naming, the relanguaging, the expansion of pronouns it might not be automatic, it might not be sudden, it might not be fast, but it will. It will expand the so-called bikini science into more inclusive science. Science that will not just include women, but LGBTQCIs, questions that were more expansive and more gender inclusive. From again the little things will expand binary sex essentialism to sex contextualism. In the social sciences, we were cringy in the early 1990s when you know the answer or to the question to the Miss Universe, who was the Miss Universe Sushmita Sen, what is the essence of being a woman? And her answer was, the essence of being a woman is motherhood. And everyone clapped their hands. And now we are flinching at it. We are cringing at it because it was just too essentializing. Okay? The essence of being a woman is motherhood. If I would expand that answer, I would say the essence of a woman is mothering, and mothering as a verb, not mothering as a noun. Okay, and who does mothering? Everyone. Male, female, regardless of sexual orientation and gender expression. Mothering is a verb. Okay, what else? The little things, yung mga pagkabog natin in our little corners in research will expand, and that means not just sige na nga, half of the population is women, is composed of women. Hindi na lang ganun kasimple, no? Na half lalaki, half babae. Meron pa tayong nuances na idadagdag sa ating research. Okay. So, as we continue, okay, it is very important that we clarify our epistemology. What is science and how do we do science? What is knowledge and how do we know that we are making knowledge? We notice that these are very, very gender specific, or very gender exclusive. No? Pag sinabi natin exclusive, nag-exclude ng mga bagay-bagay. Halimbawa, okay? So, we have this notion that knowledge building should be rigidly procedural. Okay? It should be rigidly procedural. Why is this so gendered, for instance? Kailangan ba, dapat hindi ma-contaminate ng ating mga damdamin, ng ating mga emosyon, ng mga bagay-bagay. Di ba? Meron tayo ngayon pagtingin. Now, if you notice, that is very gendered already. Okay? So, I am not saying that knowledge building should lose its procedures altogether. I am just saying that perhaps, okay, our ideas of what is knowledge, what is the truth, how to get there, even the so-called scientific method, okay, na dapat neutral, walang bias, baka, there is already a room to question it. there is already room to redefine it, and then my favorite word, to expand it. Okay? Halimbawa, no, meron tayong in the scientific realm, okay, meron tayong palaging argumentation of the naturalness of things. Okay? So meron tayong, hindi kasi ganun talaga yun, not biological talaga yan, no? Kung titingnan natin yung genes, ganun talaga yung genes. Meron pa nga tayong anong tawag nito? Animification, okay? Pag sinabi nating animification, kasi ganun talaga, tingnan mo yung mga hayop, di ba? Meron tayong mga ganun. Tingnan mo yung mga hayop. Okay, dati meron sa tingnan mo yung mga hayop, wala namang bakla. Wrong. Okay? Okay, merong mga baklang mga hayop. In fact, napaka-common yan in the animal world. So, meron tayong ganun too. Meron tayong animification. Again, ngayon is already being questioned. Okay? Meron tayong pangliliit, no? May mga nanliliit tayo pag sinabing, ay, hindi yan knowledge building. Pag nakikipag-chismisin ka, no? Hindi ka nag-create ng knowledge. Even that is very gender bias. And often pag ang chismosa, no? Chismosa, si Marites, no? Napaka-female ng concept natin yan. At meron tayong idea ng that is not part of knowledge building. So ngayon, kini-question natin yan. Meron lang ba talagang exclusivity si academia? Meron lang ba exclusivity si educated person to this so-called knowledge building? Kaya tayo nababash na masyado tayong mga snob, masyado tayong mga elitista. Kasi nga, napaka-limited din ang tingin natin ng what does it mean to create knowledge. Pag nagtatanong ba tayo when we ask experts, okay, do we stop there? Do we just go to experts when we want to learn things? Or do we also go to non-expert? That's the ones who live the reality that we are interested in. Okay? Do culture and context have space in science's neutrality? Okay? Meron ba tayong espasyo para sa context? Okay? Or do we just zoom into the molecules and to the atoms and to the, I don't know, all these things. Okay? Pero tinitingnan ba natin kung nasaan siya? Okay, moving on. Okay, so what now? Why is it important to do this? Why is it important to expand? Why is it important to be gender fair? Why is it important to know the vocabulary, as I have been saying all this while? Okay, why are we here in the first place? Okay, because personally, and this is my advocacy, this is my bias, so much is at stake. So much is at stake. If there are people who are being excluded, if there are realities that are being excluded, we are not getting the full picture, and there's so much at stake at this point. Okay, I have lived in a bubble for almost all my life because I am, again, cisgender educated female. Okay, but when I go outside my reality, okay, I just understand, okay, the many realities that are continually being excluded. So for instance, no, what is the current state of knowledge of sex and gender in a given area of research or development? There are many areas in education, for instance, that are not even aware, not yet there, have not made the first step into gender and development. Okay, wala pa rin doon. Sasabihin nila, saka na yan. Hindi natin yan priorities. Saka na yan. Okay? What do we not know as a result of not analyzing sex and gender? What's the consequence in the medical field, for instance? They have just found out with the COVID-19 vaccination research that transgenders are in a higher risk, for cardiovascular disease. And they are just trying to find out. They're just starting to be interested. Why? Okay, because transgenders have never been part of any sampling. Okay, have any potentially relevant groups of research subject been left out? Okay, female animals in drug research women and gender diverse people in systems biology, pregnant women, large people in automotive engineering, di ba? So when we talk about farmers, for instance, fisher folks, what are concepts of this? Do we have sex segregated data, for instance? If math is genderless, another example, how come males do better in standardized tests while females do better in applied math and math intensive fields? So two realities and two perspectives, and we're always crying gender equality, but then there came a point when there are more girls doing great in math and the boys are being left behind. That's not also the picture that we want, but there are gradations in this reality. Pag sinabi nating math intensive fields, no, I'm already thinking rocket ship science math. So yung mas theoretical, no, mas marami daw mga babae doon. Okay, sabi ni Hertz and Levine. How come that the more gender equality in the undergrad, the fewer women and non-gender conforming individuals in STEM? Anong ibig sabihin nito, no? The more that there is prescription for gender equality in the undergrad, okay, mas konti actually ang babae at non-gender conforming individuals in the STEM strand. Okay? So siguro ang good news nito, non-gender conforming nasa arts and humanities, okay? So, that's bravo for the arts and humanities. Okay. Another, reality. The countries that minted the most female college students in fields such as science, engineering, or math were also some of the least gender equal countries. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Okay, so we don't need to be kampante with the gender index na nasa itaas daw ang Pilipinas. Hindi kailangan kampante tayo dyan because, pwede pa natin yan questionin because, sabi nga nila, it's not automatic that we have had 2 female presidents already. It might not be automatic na nag-elevate na tayo when it comes to gender equality. Okay? So, I am having this speech because we need to question what is important to study, what is knowledge that will move the planet forward, because perhaps we are still stuck in the old notions of what is good knowledge. If you look at the list of, say, 100 greatest novels being written, we are still looking at ideas of conquests, ideas of getting lost in the forest, in the desert, which are very, very masculine behaviors and traits. We are still applaud stories of, again, the conquests, the outside the home, but hardly do fiction stories on the struggles in the kitchen, the struggles in the home, the struggles in what typically would be associated with non-masculine attributes as inferior. These are not good stories because these are not stories of conquests. These are not really important. If we study about the long hours of laundry and cooking and child rearing, what do we get from that? Is it as important as learning, marine biology? Is it as important? Is it necessary, okay, to know as knowing things that are what we deem important for the economy? Okay? So, maraming ganap. So, I will very quickly just let you see the possibilities of understanding gender in our research. And when I say, let's take gender, as a concept, as a topic, and as a means to do research, when I say it, I mean locating ourselves in the intersection. Okay? Intersections of oppression and emancipation. So, maraming ganap, no? Maraming ganap. Of course, ang pinanggagalingan ko ay communication and media. So, yun ang aking obsession, yun ang aking kaligayahan. Pero, okay, I might be able to shed some light of inspiration on how you might do research that are gender sensitive, that are GAD sensitive, in your fields. So I just divide this into three. No, I ran out of time because I crammed my PowerPoint slide, so I don't have examples for everything. But I just group this into usaping katawan, usaping ekonomiya, usaping puso. So ang daming pwede nating pag-aralan to. Usaping katawan, usaping ekonomiya, usaping puso. So usaping katawan, I often say the body is the last frontier. There is so much that we can study about the pinanggagalingan ng anong nararamdaman ng katawan, sinong may katawan, ano ang daming pwedeng mag-aralan sa katawan. Okay, so how do teenage LGBTQCI individuals negotiate their sexual expression during the pandemic? This is a very communication related topic, but just again expand your imagination. How might you be able to relate this to your specific field of interest? Okay, so this is gender related topic exclusively on the katawan aspect of it. How do solo parents navigate life-work balance in the time of the pandemic? Again, usaping katawan because, again, ang standpoint ng solo parents are very different with parents who have co-parents with them. Iba ang dinadanas, iba ang gutom, iba ang pag-alala, iba ang anxiety ng solo parent, right? So, iba ang dinadanas ng katawan, okay? So, navigation through context, navigation through spaces, masarap pag-aralan yan. Okay? Supervisors, subordinates, newcomers, neophytes, anong dinadanas sila sa bagong environment? Masarap din pag-aralan yan. No? Again, I would call it usaping katawan. How does TikTok reconstruct or deconstruct notions of sexuality? Usaping katawan pa rin yan. Okay? How do openly gay teachers present credibility in their online classes? Usaping katawan. Okay, so I know I am coming from a very, very specific communication and media related perspective, but I hope because I have been blah 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 blahing for more than an hour already, unti-unti nyo nang nare-relate to your specific fields. Okay? Usaping ekonomiya, I no longer have specific research questions here because I ran out of time already. But what does it mean to be participants in the economy? I would go for, say, if you're looking at sectors, for instance, sectors who are participating in the economy, farmers, fisher folks, assembly line workers, teachers, educators, what else? Call center agents, professors, dancers. Okay, I'd like us to look at how the spectrum of genders are represented in it. Okay, so when we say farmers, are we looking at just male farmers? When we talk about resiliency, for instance, in disaster, okay, often we say, what does it mean for families to be back on their feet after a disaster? What does it mean for families to be put back together after a super typhoon? And often the studies have looked into, ay naitayo yung bahay, okay na yun, which is a very masculine perspective. Pag naitayo na namin ang bahay namin, okay na kami. Now, with a nuance and a gender-sensitive way of looking at it, post-disaster recovery, we realize that for females, for instance, it's not just na naitayo ang bahay. Hindi lang yun. Naku, hindi lang yun. Diba? Paano kung maputik pa ang loob ng bahay? For females, it might be naibalik ang kortina, naisabit ang mga picture frame, no? Naayos na yung kusina, malinis na, naliguan na yung aso, wala nang pneumonia si bunso. Two different perspectives of what it means to be recovered from a disaster. Okay, I will hurry because I have already gone beyond my time. And then the lastly is usaping puso. What does it matter? What does it mean to matter? Okay, what does it mean to matter? Ano nga ba ang hulugan to take up space, to give our voice to an experience? Again, ano ang kwento ang pinakikinggan natin? Anong perspective ang pinapakinggan natin? And unfortunately, in the hard sciences, usaping puso does not even have a space. Okay? So I could not, because I am coming from arts and humanities and the social sciences, where it is somehow already a given that usaping puso has a space. Okay, so I find it very hard, talking to people in the hard and sciences, and they cannot place emotionality, they cannot place bias and intentionality in the way that they understand things. For instance, math teachers during the pandemic, most especially, have reached out to communication experts, to communication scholars, because it is during the pandemic that they realized that they have been facing the blackboard this entire year, and they thought that method worked. Okay naman ako, talaga pagpasok ko sa klase ko, nandun na ako. So, the division of polynomials at sinong kinakausap ni math teacher? Yung blackboard. And during the pandemic, that kind of certainty in that method has been greatly questioned. Okay, so that's a very interesting direction to look into. If to look at the gender blindness of certain fields, the gender blindness of doing things that have already been cemented, or that have already been set on stone for eons and eons. Perhaps now, okay, it pays to ask questions. What is at stake here? What are we losing here? Are we losing learners to TikTok? Because TikTok is such a very freeing space for the young generations, and this sense of freedom we may not be unable to give them. That's why we're losing them. That's why there is a high attrition rate in education. Okay, and more people are leaving the conversations because we don't even have a common language from which we can start. I don't know if I am making sense. My 13-year-old daughter is listening to me. Am I making sense? She's nodding her head. Okay. But perhaps she's just flattering me. Sir JM, I don't know if I have given justice to the topic. Yun lang muna sa ngayon. Perhaps your questions will more or less discipline my mind that has gone all over the place. So yun lang muna sa ngayon. You can contact me here if you cannot ask your questions directly to me this morning. Baldo-Cubelo at up.edu.ph. These are my references because I don't have an original idea. I just borrowed everything from these authors. There, what else? There, and the two art pictures that I have borrowed came from Isabella Cortier and Alamangos from Pinterest, and of course, Slide Carnival for my PowerPoint template. Maraming salamat, and I look forward to your comments, questions, reactions, etc., etc., etc. Sir Josh?
Thank you so much, Ma'am Julienne. That was a very fruitful session. I myself, I really learned a lot from your talk this morning, ma'am. So, wow, almost 300 people, ma'am, are tuning in with us. They stayed with us for the whole session because I really do believe that these people are really interested and they really, really like to learn more about how do we mainstream gender in development in our research papers, in our potential research topic. So thank you very much, ma'am. So as of now, marami po nagpapasalamat sa ating Facebook chat, no po. Kasi earlier, ma'am, in your questions po, no, they were really asking po, no, yung, for example, yung paano mo ba, are you being gender sensitive ba in your classes or in your work? So marami pong nag-send ka sa kanilang insights po, no. So according nga po kay Edmark Versosa, he says that this is a very eye-opening session. So why can't we start using language to normalize all gender? So I agree po na, ma'am, no. Kasi it all starts nga po, di ba po kanina dun sa Mentimeter natin, no? One of the goals of mainstreaming of gender and development is awareness. One participant mentioned awareness, and I think that's a very good starting point to have further discussions on these topics. And sabi ni Romnick Magusip, sabi niya, it's just so cool how gender sensitivity was accentuated in this session. So I hear, ma'am, we have a question already from Giovanni Kiev Matunton Putong. So his question is, are concerns primarily in legal texts or transcriptions of cases, digests, and historical documents, the text that is clear and fixed in relation to the usage of the words we can't even circumvent it by using gender neutral for it? Please enlighten us with your point in this regard. So I think his question, ma'am, is with regards to legal documents or historical documents, which are, I think, parang mas leaning to dun sa binary po, no, na male and female po. No? How do we address this, no? Or what are your thoughts with regards to this concern, ma'am?
Ako,
Sige po.
sumakit ang ulo ko bigla, Sir Josh, dyan, because I've been consulted in by a legal association or legal organization with regard to embracing this concept, and I will not sugarcoat it. Okay, there is a lot of resistance in the among lawyers, and there is a very very great resistance. What do we say? Revolutions are created through policies, but policymakers are really late in this revolutionary action. So, nako, whoever asked that question, what's the name again? We have a long, long way to go. We have a long, long way to go. But I also notice that in any movement, in any lobbying, there is there is always a slow start. There is a slow start. The fact that I have been asked, that I have been invited to talk and to look at documents, not just me, but other linguists, also other gender advocates. This is an opening that is very exciting, and I don't at this point I don't have real prescriptions about this because I am not a lawyer, I am not a policymaker, but I guess this is an opening that really really is exciting. The way that I have been very active in lobbying for the reproductive health bill, for instance, it took a long while, and then suddenly we got the extended maternity leave, for instance, and so on and so forth. What is my suggestion? If you are, I would like to begin with the circle of influence that I have, that I am accountable for. If you are a boss, an executive in a company, a principal, a dean, a department chair, a parent, we can begin with those things. In our conference meetings, in our meetings, we can begin in the way that we draft memos. We can begin with a conversation that from now on, please let's start again. I would like to hear what your preferred pronouns are, and I might cascade a memo, links to YouTube about this. Let's start. So ganun lang. So let us begin with the documents that will revolve in our circle of influence, para may clarity, and then we can slowly expand. We can talk to local government units, to our, ganun lang siya, back back to our associations. If you belong to associations of lawyers, history professors, alam mo yun yung ganon, we can begin with our circles of influence, and then let's see, the ripple effects will somehow expand.
I agree po na Ma'am Julian, kasi you really have to start small kasi yung mga ganitong movements or initiatives, it won't be a one-time big time na ano po, no,
Right. Yes.
na movement. I mean, it's not you can't change everybody's perspective in just one day, parang gano'n. So you really have to, I agree ma'am, no, you start small with your circles, your circle of friends, your
Yes.
colleagues,
Yes.
your subordinates in your office. So from there, ma'am, it's a good starting point to have these gender
Correct.
sensitive notions po, no? So I agree. And I think that's a good suggestion po, no? Start small and eventually it would cascade into a larger scale, into a larger sphere. And eventually, who knows po,
Hopefully,
no?
hopefully.
In
There will
the
be a lot of
legal
tension.
and historical aspect, we'll be able to answer your question, Mr. Giovanni. No?
There will be a lot of resistance, Josh, and this is unfortunate, but the older generations are really the most resistant on this one. Our students, our children, the millennials, the Gen Zs, actually they don't overthink about it because oo nga naman. Okay? May ganong klaseng ease. Okay?
Yes, ma'am, no. So, well, it never hurts to try po, no. Especially in convincing the older.
Pero
Ako, ma'am.
sa mga joints, sa medyo, alam mo yung arthritic na, perhaps, for these joints, it
Mhm,
will hurt to try for them. But okay lang, some stretchings are needed.
I agree, ma'am. So, I think we have another question. Ito, ma'am. Marami po nagpapasalamat po na sabi ni Rosaline Dasco, a very informative and more new ideas on how gender and development can be made possible into a research topic. Thank you, Doc Julian. So,
Mhm.
talagang kanina, ma'am, no, you were able to provide many examples and possible entry points nga po kung saan pwede mong talakayin ang gender and development in your research topic on our yung mga day-to-day na experiences natin. For example, on TikTok, yan, as a teacher, gusto ko ma'am yung as a teacher, how do you establish your credibility as
Right,
a speaker or as a teacher if you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
right,
So these
right.
are very interesting and very important, if I may say, topics that we should take into consideration po, no? Especially for our students from in the social sciences
Correct.
who might be interested with these topics.
Josh, sa communication kasi, we're really big on performance.
Yes, ma'am.
Performance not as a faking it behavior, but performance as a way of being. We perform. We perform our masculinities, our femininities. We perform credibility. We perform professionalism. Ibig sabihin, it is learned. It is not a natural way of beingness. Okay? So, performing, marami yan, no? Gusto yan ni Sir JM, no? Performing credibility, performing professionalism, performing, what else? Femininity in a heterosexual relationship, or even performing masculinity in a non heteronormative relationship, performing marami yan, performing business, performing enlightenment in academia. So yeah, the everyday, I guess I am always coming from the everydayness of my research topics.
Thank you, ma'am po. And we have actually a response po dun sa nyo po, no, with regards po dun sa, I think yung dun po kanina sa historical and legal aspect po. According to Edmark Versosa, he responds, I think we should start a movement about our fight, Doc Julian. We should start a philosophical movement that is not focused only on men and women. So looking forward to working and collaborating with you someday. Thank you.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're a blessing daw po, Ma'am Julian.
Nako, lahat ng bagay sa buhay ko ay a movement. Parang it's always like, nakakapagod na din. But I'm not like this 24 hours, Josh. I'm not like this. I'm
Yes
like,
po, Ma'am.
pag 5 o'clock, wala pagod na ako. Di ba, nganga na lang ako at magtatahi na lang ako ng mga butas na damit. But sabi ko nga, my ideal society is one where we can sit down and theorize. Okay, and
Yes, Ma'am.
the best way to begin is to be amongst young people. If
Yeah.
medyo
Yes, Ma'am.
hinaan tayo ng loob, parang wala namang nakakagat sa akin, hindi naman nila naintindihan yung mga bossing ko ganito. Be amongst, converse with young people. They will give you really hope.
Yes, Ma'am. That is po, duly noted po. Really with our young people. Kasi many of our movements or initiatives po na sila yung unang nagre-respond.
Yeah.
Or po yung nagre-react in
Yeah.
a good way po na with regards to
Sulong ang young people is
Yes.
Baka ganun ang young people kasi they are not yet bound by the the notions of impracticalities, pag medyo you reach a certain age, sila na lang yan because, the logistics of daily life, the pagkain, sino magsasaing, we're kind of already imprisoned in these traps. But the young people, they're kind of ignorant in a good way. So, laban! Okay, and they are willing to actually take on the difficult conversations. You talk about the pronouns, very easy. You don't need to explain a lot to the young people. But the parents, they will laugh, they will resist, they will cringe, like, ayoko yan. Mental health. So very, very young people can talk about it without flinching, without cringing, but really candid, down to earth honesty. So young people is the way to begin with.
Yes, ma'am. So talagang po, no, especially with children, conversing with their with their elders or their parents po. Yung mga small talks po, no, these are good ways to start bringing up the conversation and eventually would help enlighten
Yes.
our older generations in with regards to these issues na sa ating sa ating society. And we have a comment, ma'am po, no? Sabi from Dawson Calapasya. Sabi niya po, as a transgender woman education student, this will help me to develop researches for my field. Thank you po.
Right.
So, thank you
Yes.
so much.
Transgenders are the ones who would really do the extra hours and the extra work for them to get somewhere. Okay, which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be the norm. It shouldn't be the norm because tenures are given less to them. You know, breaks are so we need to understand why that is so. We need to understand what are the structures of oppression that are in place. Now we know that these are policies. These are cultures in organization. Measures, concepts of measures. So yun ang kailangan alamin, pag-aralan at kabugin.
Yes, Ma'am Julian po. And here we have a parang invitation na po from Rainier Stularte. Sabi niya po, Ma'am Julian, pwede bang mag-collaborate with you for our action or basic research on gender and development? Thanks po. So may
Hindi
networking
natin ang
na
ating
po.
kalendaryo kasi ang ating kalendaryo ay dugu-dugu na. Sure, of course, I always mentor for free. Alam mo yon, um, collaboration. Let's see kung, I have 3 children. I have lots of plans. Okay, but yes, ano natin yan is calendar method lang yan.
Yes, ma'am.
I-schedule natin yan ahead of time. Sure, and thank you. I feel honored.
Yes, ma'am. And I believe po kasi this is really your way of promoting our advocacies in being a more gender sensitive community for each and every one of us. So hopefully mas marami pa pong mga students, hopefully parents, and all people across the gender spectrum who will be enlightened po from your thoughts po, ma'am. So thank you po. So let me see po. Here, ma'am. I think we have a question po from Ephramus Jeffrey. Sabi niya po, this is my question. Many researchers suggest that women are more impacted by climate change than men. Having said this, climate change is not gender neutral. What are your recommendations to address this issue to achieve gender equality in the context of climate change? Thank you.
That's a very brilliant question and one that is very difficult to answer. But let's look at when we try to delineate, dimensions, aspects of climate change, for instance. For now, I would go for mitigation. Okay, I would go for mitigation. So what are the ways that communities? I would always go for communities, not individuals. Help how communities help families mitigate, say, the consequences of disasters. Let's begin with water resources, for instance. Okay, so in most families, women are the one responsible for water. Okay, I just learned this when I got involved in a research project for the National Water Resource Board. Meron pala tayong ganun, no? So, I was asked to do a research for the National Water Resource Board. Okay? And women are really the ones responsible when it comes to accessing good water. Pwedeng ang mag-iigib ang lalaki, pero pagkatapos ng ibig, pakukuluin pa yan, tapos isasala pa yan, iimbak yan. So when we're looking at the elements for survival, okay, when it comes to mitigation and related to our natural resources, let us not be monolithic about these things. Let us not be monolithic that this is how people do things. This is how they conserve water. This is where they access water. Who are the people doing what, for instance? Okay? So marami yan. So kanina yung example ko is recovery naman, no? So in recovery is not monolithic. It's not homogeneous. There is not one single narrative about recovery. There are embodied experiences. Like pag sinabi kong embodied, iba ang recovery when it comes to evacuation centers. magkakaibang kwento yan, no? Magkakaibang kwento, CR, alam mo yun, iba ang CR, iba ang kwento ng babae nagre-regla, nanganganak ng papadede, ng trans, ng LGBTQ, iba yon. So, ngayon kasi, of course, I understand that we are in a panic, we're always in a sense of urgency, so we tend to reduce things into monolithics. Okay, evacuation period, mabuti nga mahiga ka dyan. Bakit kailangan natin yan ipa-complicate, no? So, but ngayon, slowly, we are to answer the question, let us be nuanced with our concept. So when we say recovery, pag may gender lens na tayo na yan, at thank goodness you attended this seminar because you can no longer unsee. You have already seen, you can no longer unsee. So if you are one who holds position of power, where you are mandated to have, decision making processes cascaded to a lot of people, now you cannot unsee. So nuance na ngayon. Okay? Ano kaya ang standpoint? Balik tayo sa salitang standpoint. Ano kaya ang standpoint ng lalaki dyan? Ano kaya ang standpoint ng babae dyan? Ano kaya ang standpoint ng mga trans? Ano kaya ang standpoint ng differently abled, yung nasa wheelchair? Ano kaya, di ba? So, hindi na lang siya monolithic, one, big reductionisms of concepts.
Thank you, Ma'am
Haba
Julienne.
palagi ng sagot, Josh, no?
Oh, it's okay, Ma'am. Kasi po, your response was very comprehensive po and very enlightening. So talagang oo nga, no?
Hindi rin, magulo din. Minsan magulo din. Marami ding, I wish I could be like, but I cannot.
Hindi naman po. Okay lang po. So ito po, Ma'am, no, we have a comment from Miley Lagilias po. She wants to share this quote from Gloria Steinem po. She said that a gender equal society would be one where the word gender does not exist, where everyone can be simply themselves. No?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. No? Kasi parang ako po personally, a good indicator po of being of a gender inclusive community or society po is where we don't even no. We don't even have to explain. Yes, exactly, ma'am. Yung mo po yun, provide reason. Po yun, yung provide parang a justification to what you're saying or what you're implying.
Because we're not entitled to any explanation.
Yes, exactly,
especially
ma'am.
if you are coming from the privileged sector. We are not entitled to people's sexualities, and we cannot out them. We cannot even ask. We are not entitled. Those are, if the information is volunteer, then we take hold of the information responsibly. But we are not entitled to any revelation. But labeling, naming is very important. But that is not the end unto itself. Okay? What is the goal? The goal is for the labels to disappear. You know what I'm saying? But now we are not yet there. The naming, the labeling are very important, because when it is there, it can be taken. It can be an alternative. But the labels cannot also be imposed on everyone. For those people who are non-conforming, some of them they also don't like to be labeled, but that's okay. But an option has to be there. We are not yet there. But again, when I look into the future and I am asked about my ideal time and my ideal society, wala siya dapat label. No? I wish we could have more the gender neutral pronouns in the Filipino language that would just, apply to everyone. At hindi ka ni question at kailangan magpapaliwanag kung bakit umiibig tayo in a certain way. Bakit ganun ka? Ba't ganyan ang itsura mo? Di ba? Bakit parang masyado kang makulay at maarte? At bakit ganyan? Wala na dapat explanation. But for now, language, naming, underscoring are very important, but they have to be options, alternatives, not impositions.
Yes, ma'am. I agree. Kami nga po dito sa university po, yung na-mention nga po na little things that eventually are big things. For example, yung tama-tama, ito po, malapit na matapos yung SEM and we'll be welcoming a new batch of students here in the university po. No? We usually brand them as freshmen or freshman, di ba po? So why not just simply call them freshies or first year students, di ba po? So, lahat ba ng freshman ay men talaga, di ba? So, yung mga ganung little things, ma'am, na talaga na it eventually means a lot to others na hindi natin kino-consider yung nila, yung nararamdaman po nila, di ba? that's how I see it po. Yung mga ganung small things that are eventually big things for other people. Yes, ma'am. Sige po. Eto, ma'am, marami pong nagko-comment po sa ating Facebook po. They would like to connect with you daw po. Sana maybe you could ano po. I think ano po ma'am no.
Ako, wala pa naman ako Facebook.
Dadami pa ang inyong ano
Wala ako
partnership na
Facebook, guys. Because,
engagements.
you know, I was hacked. I was search that's, you know, elections related. My account got hacked and Facebook blocked me, but I am not yet willing to take back my account, maybe after the elections. I gave the email, no, it's baldo-cubelo.edu.up.ph. So yun, I'm just here. I'm in Quezon City. I am in UP Diliman. So that's where you can connect with me in the best possible way.
Sige po ma'am, that's ano po. Noted po, no? So for our students who would like to connect with Ma'am Julienne, it's JY Baldo-Cubelo at up.edu.ph, and you can perhaps send your message or question. I think marami pa bang may gustong ano marinig po insights nyo with regards to our topic. Siguro po ma'am, ano po, last two questions po, no? Kasi I think dumadami pa rin po yung questions, pero maybe you can our participants may ask this na lang po through email po. Ito po ma'am, here's one question from Dane. What is the downfall of gender sensitizing or communication mechanisms? Don't you think that we are really emphasizing it over time? It becomes labelist. What do you think po? I'm interested to know your insights. Ma'am Julienne?
Very wonderful question, because this is a continuing dilemma for me. I often get tired of my own voice. You know, that just to be very, very honest with you all, I get tired of it. I sometimes I get frustrated that hanggang ngayon ba naman kailangan pa natin mag-explain. And pinapatulan ko pa rin ang pinaka-basic na gender sensitivity training, and I am iffy about it because I feel like agencies, government, non-government organizations have already had a lot of gender sensitivity. So alam mo kung parang sirang plaka na ako, no? So to the best of my ability, I try to ingest a different way of looking at it. So, no, so I do not begin with what is gender-body sex. I'm already tired of those kinds of consequent of talks, and I guess YouTube already has a lot of more wonderful ways of talking about these things. Yeah, tama, pwede talaga tayong ma-accuse ng pagiging labelist, what else, pagiging OA about it, and to be very defensive about it, no? But I look at it this way. When we are learning a new language, when we are learning a new way of doing things, we are nangangapa. No, meron talagang parang, ano ba yan? Mali naman yan. Di ba may ganan tayo? So, sabi ko nga, waray ako. No? So, ang Englishing ko talaga came very, very difficult. Very late in life. Come on. Graduate na ako sa college na mamali-mali ko pa rin ang aking subject-verb agreement. So, matagal na process ang learning a new language. So, when you're learning a new language and we're trying to use it, to appropriate it into our processes, into our memos, into our research projects, into the way that we speak, into the way that meron talagang time na parang tama ba to? Over ba to? Meron talaga ganun. So I think very natural way, ganun lang. Okay? Minsan nga yung reaction sa nung natanggap ko yung email na mix Julienne Baldo-Cubelo, meron ako, how does it feel now? Nung minix nila ako, no? Parang, may ganon. Meron kang pagpo-pause because it is a new set of vocabulary. To the individual, it will always feel like parang na-OA na tayo dito. You know, alam mo yung mga taong hindi nag-Filipino but they're trying to speak Filipino. Di ba merong dating sa atin na parang OA na parang masyadong, di ba may Amerikano na nagtatagalog. Dahil marahil ikaw ay hindi naman, di ba, nandun sila sa extreme side of speaking Filipino because that is not a natural language for them. So baka pwede maging OA, pwede maging extreme, pwede maging sobra nga, hindi pa siya natural. So I guess we are still in that stage that we will be, tama ba to? Nasusobra ba? Amay. So nandun pa rin tayo as individuals and as a collective. We'll get there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sana we'll get there.
Yes po. Hopefully, ma'am. So wala naman pong imposible. So let's just have that optimistic mind for the future na we'll reach our goals in gender and development. So siguro po, ma'am, I would like to ask for your final words of advice, perhaps, or your final thoughts po for our participants who are here with us in our session today. Sige po, ma'am.
Okay, siguro I will just reiterate my last 3 points that in research there are so many questions to ask but so little time. So many questions, so little time. So I'd like I'd like you to invite to a different way of looking for the research questions. Sa akong kasi too much, medyo nasobrahan na tayo ng the heroic upward movement of research, the out there, the big things, how do we move the planet, I call these things as the heroic upward movement. Okay? The progress, development, pag ganun. And nagkukulang tayo sa soulful downward movement of looking at things. So soulful downward movements for me would be very important. When we talk about growth, it's always upward, but we forget that soulful downward movement. Okay? So when I am demotivated with research, sabi ko, ano nga ba ang mga soulful downward movement leaning kind of research questions? And that would be for me, again, usaping katawan. Okay? Katawan na, in, in, in a messy, chaotic situations. What else? Maybe usaping reproductive sphere. Okay? Because I have seen in my early development work, I have been big on lobbying for livelihood, access, legislation, education. These are all productive sphere outside the home. But then later, we would monitor a project on livelihood. 3 years later, titingnan namin yung the reality of women. Nagkaroon nga sila ng access to hog racing, Santo Jam making, pot holder suing, binigyan ng livelihood, di ba? After 3 years, tingnan natin ang kanilang kalagayan, may gulay, hindi pa nga nakabili ng bra, pante, at nag-away na sa asawa kasi nakakabili ng lipstick at polvo. So sabi ko, now that she has access to livelihood, she is an income, earner in the family, but has the power dynamics inside the reproductive sphere been questioned, been analyzed? Siya na nga ang nagbababuyan, pero hindi naman nabawasan ng kanyang hugasin, ng kanyang labahan. So, things that lagi tayong big on, extending ourselves to the public, pero tingnan natin, at the end of the day, when people come home in the shelters that they're supposed to be recharged with, are the power dynamics questioned and analyzed? Are these being talked about? So, yun lang sa akin ng mga pababa, that's downward movement of growth. And then the last is really this the sense of being enough, having a space in this world, regardless of whether or not you conform to specific notions of the ideal. Okay? And if you are privileged, okay, mas hihingan kita, mas sisingilin kita, ikaw ang dapat mag-aruga, ikaw ang dapat mag-extend ng kamay, ikaw dapat mag-open ng inyong bahay at pintuan. Okay? So, studies about this thing. So, ordinary, inside the home, katawan, those are the things that really make my heart beat and lift me off my feet. And I hope I have sort of, excited you to also follow those kinds of directions this morning. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the energy, the hearts, the invitations for collaboration. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much. And there you have it, our speaker for this morning, Dr. Julienne Baldo-Cubelo. Thank you very much, Ma'am Julienne. So I really do hope ng ating mga participants ngayong umagang ito ay maraming napulot na mga insights, thoughts, points of reflection sa ating pagiging gender, ating goal na pagiging isang gender sensitive na community and gender inclusive with regards to research, our research agenda. No? So, thank you very much, Ma'am June. And always, gusto ko yung last part, yung point ni Ma'am, no? Always check your privileges, no? Before you make any comments or stands, no? Always check your privilege. Kasi tayo ay hindi pare-parehas na na-experience sa buhay. So, thank you very much, Ma'am Julia. Now, hashtag Team LRC would like to take this opportunity to thank our speaker for her valuable time. So to award the Certificate of Appreciation, may I kindly recognize our Director, Assistant Professor John Mervin L. Embate. So allow me to read the citation. University of the Philippines, Los Baños Learning Resource Center presents a Certificate of Appreciation to Julienne Thesa Y. Baldo-Cubelo for serving as resource speaker during the webinar series Research is Life, How to Ace Your Research Paper during the 5th session entitled You GAD IT, Mainstreaming Gender and Development in Research, held today, May 2, 2022 at the Learning Resource Center, UPLB College, Laguna. Signed by John Mervin L. Embate, the Director of LRC. Sir JM.
Thank you very much, Josh. And of course, maraming salamat sa aking dear advisor ng aking master, si Ma'am Julienne. Thank you very much po for finding time despite your very busy schedule and for sharing us your energy and for motivating us to always pursue excellence, no, in our research. Ang ganda nung naging talk ni Ma'am Julienne today kasi malinaw na malinaw yung connection niya from our previous sessions, no? Most especially on the social relevance of research. At the same time, nabigyan din tayo dito ni Ma'am Julienne ng mga tips, no, or possible research entry points dun sa mga research topics or areas na nabigay sa atin kanina in her slides, no. But ako particularly nagustuhan ko yung ang biggest take-off point ko from Ma'am Julienne's discussion a little while ago ay yung pag-highlight niya on the importance of language, no, in giving visibility to certain marginalized or oftentimes unnoticed sectors in the community, no. Kasi ang ganda ng discussion na if we really want to pursue development, if we want to do research that has social relevance, kanino tayo magsisimula? Ano ba yung destination or sino ba dapat yung mag-benefit doon sa research na ginagawa natin? Kaya very telling, no, very powerful rather, yung point ni Ma'am Julienne kanina with regard to looking as very political, no, na we need to question yung looking natin, yung gaze natin. Pero when we do research for women with the aspiration of giving them opportunities for development, no, we just don't look at them. We see them. No, and we recognize their voices and we want to amplify their voices para ma-direct nila yung development nila that they want to achieve for themselves, for their family, and for our community. So with that, Ma'am Julienne, thank you again. Maraming salamat. Sobrang natutuwa po ako. Kasi for our listeners today, no, ito yung energy ni Ma'am Julienne that inspired and motivated me to finish my degree in MA in Communication. And I'm very happy na marami tayo ngayon ng mga participants na na-infect din ng energy ni Ma'am Julienne. And hopefully, ay mag-bleed through itong yung bright and sunny feeling na naramdaman natin sa session natin until the end of the week, until mag-election, dahil kailangan ma-channel natin itong energy na to, no, sa pagboto natin sa susunod na election. So with that, maraming salamat po, Ma'am Julienne.
Thank you very much, Sir JM. So I agree po na sir, no? Kaya ko pa nga po sinasabi na grabe mag-discuss si Ma'am Julienne. Sobrang alam mo yung talagang mapapakinig ka talaga. Hindi pwede hindi ka makinig sa kanya kasi she will really alam mo yun, talagang tatagos sa yung gusto niyang iparating na lessons and insights. And hopefully Ma'am Julienne, no, through future endeavors or future speaking engagements, no, many of our students and researchers and teachers would heed your call to a more gender-sensitive community and being a more gender-inclusive research community. So especially starting here in with our session this morning on You GAD IT. So thank you, Sir Jim, and thank you, Ma'am Julie. Now for the evaluation of this session, please do not forget to answer the evaluation form after the webinar to receive your e-certificate of attendance. So your comments and suggestions will be deeply appreciated by our team. The evaluation link is being shown right now on your screen. It's also been placed in the comment section in our FB Live. So you may also scan the QR code and be directed to the evaluation link form right away. So please be reminded that the deadline of responses is only until 10 p.m. tonight to give our system enough time to reset before the next session. So we hope we all gain inspirations and valuable insights from our speaker this morning. So sa mga teachers natin, kindly take a screenshot and send it to your students. So reminders for our next session on Thursday. So nakakalahati natin ng ating webinar series pero hindi pa nagtatapos. So join us in our next session on Thursday. Our session is entitled, Is It Right or Wrong? Basics of Research Ethics. So we'll be learning together with Dr. Pamela A. Custodio of the UPLB College of Development Communication and our school secretary here at the UPLB Graduate School. So we'll be learning naman about yung ano ba yung mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin tuwing nananaliksik ang mga mag-aaral natin. Okay? So I hope you will join us on Thursday for our 6th session. So if you haven't registered, please do so and feel free to share our publicity material on Facebook. So at this point, we would like to recognize and thank our team, #Team LRC and Researchers Live team, headed by our director, Assistant Professor John Mervin L. Embate, with the support of our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Dr. Janet H. Malata Silva. On our technical side is our Project Development Associate, Ms. Ana Margarita S. Palma, and a big shout out to Team LRC's members, Ms. Cheryl Hermosa Ebron, hi Ate Cher, hi BBC, and Ms. Alan Lee Mangente, and Mr. Elmer Balatian. And a big thank you once again to Ma'am Julienne, our very passionate speaker for this morning. So to end, let me share with you my thoughts for this session. So the realization of all genders, full potential, the promotion of human rights, and the equal opportunity to contribute to the betterment of society are fundamental in any development process. And I can say is integral in research. And what better way to imbibe this notion by embracing gender in development, mainstreaming gender and development in research. #Research is life. So thank you everyone for joining us. Stay hopeful, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ma'am Julian.